In 1990, a 24-year-old boy joins his father's scooter business as an engineer, completely unaware that within the next 20 years, he would build one of the world's biggest motorcycle brands. But why did he have to fight against his own company?
Overnight, when my father was away, we shut the plant down and then we asked for his forgiveness.
Forced to put an end to his father's best-selling scooter. This is the story of the man who created India's most iconic motorcycle. Rajiv was born to the king of two-wheelers in India, the owner of Bajaj Auto, Rahul Bajaj. While growing up, Rajiv had seen his father's rise to greatness with his own eyes. A hands-on industrialist respected for inventing the revolutionary Chetak scooter. Launched in 1972, Chetak had become an instant hit on Indian roads because it had great performance, a reliable engine and the right marketing. So it sold like crazy for more than 20 years. At its peak, the Chetak had a waiting period of 10 years and people paid almost twice the price to get it from the black market. Thanks to the Chetak, Rahul Bajaj had become the largest two-wheeler maker in India. So when his son Rajiv joined the company in 1990 as a shop floor engineer, his happiness was out of this world. However, Rajiv did not share that happiness. Instead, he was quite confused to see what was going on. Chetak had been the king of Indian roads and the best-selling two-wheeler for 20 years. But by the time Rajiv came in, the sales of Chetak had mysteriously started falling. And his father was in complete denial of this fall, blinded by Chetak's success. Within a few months, Rajiv slowly began to understand what was going wrong. Chetak was a super hit because it was perfect for the average Indian. An affordable, reliable two-wheeler that was the only alternative to a cycle. But two tiny new players had entered India by the 1990s who would become Bajaj's biggest competitors in the coming decades. The first was Hero Honda, a joint venture between Japan's Honda Motors and India's Munjal family, the owner of the ultra-successful Hero Cycles group. At that time, Japan had defeated the ghosts of its World War II destruction, and Japanese engine technology was one of the best in the world. Hero Honda launched the CD100 in 1985, a stylish and sporty motorcycle loved by youngsters. But even better than its looks was its fuel efficiency. Everyone was becoming fuel conscious back then because fuel prices had almost doubled. And thanks to the Japanese tech, the CD100's mileage was almost twice that of the Chetak. But Hero Honda was only one half of the upcoming storm. The other half was Kinetic Honda, India's first gearless scooter that was insanely easy to ride, with much more storage space and slightly better mileage than the Chetak. It was perfect for women, families and older people. So when Rajiv entered the company, it was crystal clear to him Chetak was no longer the best option. People were switching to motorcycles and kinetics, and these two new players were slowly chipping away at Chetak's dominance. The company was headed for its downfall. But when he tried explaining the same to his father and the management team, their response shocked him. Blinded by their success, they dismissed the idea that anyone could defeat Chetak's dominance. Rajiv's word fell on deaf ears and he was heartbroken. As a response to the entry of motorcycles, Bajaj Auto did tie up with the Japanese Kawasaki in the 1980s. That gave birth to motorcycles like the KB100.
Bajaj KB100 RT.
But they were always a side project for his father. Chetak was the people's default choice in the 1980s, so he had no reason to focus on anything else. Why fix something that isn't broken? That's why Bajaj Kawasaki was never a serious contender to the Munjal's Hero Honda. So Rajiv had no option but to watch in silence as outsiders ate into his empire piece by piece while his father looked away. But unfortunately, this is quite common with a lot of businesses. Most businessmen don't even realize they're stuck in their old ways, believing they will continue to grow if they stick to the same path. However, if you don't adapt with time and technology, your downfall becomes inevitable, just like Chetak. And that's why every business owner needs to try Odoo. Instead of using separate, disconnected tools and apps, Odoo can help you power all of your day-to-day operations in a single software. It literally helps you with every single part of your business. So when it comes to sales, Odoo has an amazing CRM that manages all your sales and leads from a single window. For the finances of those sales, you can use apps like accounting and invoices to manage it seamlessly. Once the money is taken care of, Odoo helps you look after your inventory, manufacturing, quality and even maintenance of your equipment. You can manage your workforce with their human resources apps, take care of marketing across multiple platforms like email and social media, and even use apps to increase your employees' productivity. Odoo also lets you build your own website or an e-commerce site. And the best part is that all the apps are interconnected. With more than 45 different apps in a single business management software, Odoo can single-handedly change the way your business works forever. So whether you use use an old school khata book, an Excel sheet, or even 10 different digital apps to manage your business, you can replace all of them with just one software. Odoo will make your operations more efficient and free up your time, so you do what you are best at, growing your business. Get your first Odoo app for free using the link in the description. Now, Rajiv Bajaj felt lonely as no one in his own company was ready to listen to him. But then something happened in 1994 that even his father could not ignore. After CD100's success, the Munjals played the best move of their life, launching the Hero Honda Splendor in 1994. And that changed the game forever. If the CD100 was the trailer, Splendor was a full-blown assault. An ultra-durable and fuel-efficient bike with a sleek and desirable design like never before. In front of the Munjal Splendor, Rahul Bajaj's Chetak looked like a bulky, old-fashioned uncle at a wedding, standing awkwardly next to the young, stylish crowd. The Splendor was an instant hit, and the Munjals continued their march. On the other hand, Chetak's sales had started falling for the first time in its history of 20+ years. And that was the wake-up call for his father and his team, who were caught by surprise. They couldn't believe what just happened. Rajiv Bajaj, on the other hand, was not surprised. He knew it was coming, but he watched helplessly as a junior engineer with no control. However, even after realizing that a storm was coming, there wasn't much that his father could do. He was almost 60 years old, and he had already established Bajaj as the leading 3 and 2-wheeler of India. So he had already fought a lot of battles and did not have it in him to have another fight. Rajiv realized what his father was going through, and he decided to take a more controlling role in the company's strategy. He moved to Bajaj's research and design division and decided to fight the biggest battle of his life. Take the Munjal's Hero Honda head-on and try to bring his father's crumbling empire back to its former glory. The Splendor had replaced Chetak, and he now had to make something to replace Splendor. But he did not make his father's mistake. He was clear that the scooter was a symbol of the past. So the new launch had to be a motorcycle. But it was not easy. His father was stuck in the glory of his scooters, which resulted in numerous debates in the boardroom. The father-son tension was now out in the open.
Often sit with my father and tell him, here are 30 examples that support my point of view. Can you give me one that doesn't?
Since his father's team did not support his vision, he built his own A-team from scratch. After spending months on the design floor with them, he finally came up with the Bajaj Boxer in 1997, a 4-stroke motorcycle that was rugged, fuel-efficient, and more affordable than the Splendor. But he did not stop there. He launched the Kawasaki Caliber the very next year, which looked much more modern and stylish. And he thought that together, these two bikes will help Bajaj regain its former glory. But what happened next turned out to be his biggest nightmare. While the Boxer and Caliber saw some success, they didn't come even close to touching the Splendor. Even after 4 years, the Munjals and their Hero Honda were still the market leader by leaps and bounds. It was the single largest 2-wheeler brand in the world. And then came the final nail in the coffin. After its experience with the Kinetic, Honda launched its Activa, a gearless scooter that took the market by storm. So people who weren't buying a Splendor bought the Activa. The young Rajiv Bajaj was surrounded by sharks, and his final attempt at redemption had failed. He was confused, doubting himself. His only companion, his father, didn't believe in his vision. With the market share, the share price was falling as well, and he was running out of options. But just as everyone thought that the end of Bajaj was coming, he had a realization that changed the fate of his company forever. In his attempt to replace the Splendor, he was a tiny fish in the ocean trying to fight with the shark. No matter what he did, he could never defeat the shark. So he decided to create a new ocean altogether, going into a category that everyone was ignoring. Splendor, Boxer, Caliber, all of them were bikes with an engine below 125cc. The primary reason people bought them was their fuel efficiency and affordability. They were perfect for the middle-class Indian consumer. The only other option was sports bikes, with engines over 400cc and prices in lakhs of rupees. However, by the 2000s, another tectonic shift was happening in India. A new segment of young Indians was rising who didn't care about fuel efficiency. All they wanted was looks and performance at an affordable price. However, only one serious contender was catering to this segment, the 150cc Hero Honda CBZ. But Hero Honda felt the same way about CBZ that Rahul Bajaj felt about motorcycles. They already had a winning product and didn't really care about anything else. CBZ was just a side project. So Rajiv silently started working in this direction, putting in months of research, blood and sweat into a new product. And in 2001, he revealed something that would change India's 2-wheeler market forever. Bajaj came out with the iconic Pulsar. Available in 150 and 180cc variants. It was a beautiful beast unlike anything India had seen before. Wide tires, muscular fuel tank, a sporty headlamp and disc brakes. It made other motorcycles look like a malnourished kid. All of this was packaged at an affordable price which didn't burn a hole in the customer's pocket. So it had better acceleration and performance than the Splendor without the lakh rupee price tag of a 400cc sports bike. Right in the sweet spot.
It was because it was unlike anything the market had seen.
Despite a strong resentment from his father and the senior management, he also opened a dedicated factory in Pune to scale Pulsar's production. But the real masterstroke was not designing the Pulsar, it was what he did after that. Convincing people to pay more for a bike with lower mileage sounded crazy. The older generation at Bajaj Auto was sure there was no way it would work. But Rajiv came up with a clever strategy. He was crystal clear about who his target audience was and he tapped into their biggest insecurity. Young men and their desire for power, masculinity and aggression. So he launched a definitely male campaign.
Bajaj Pulsar, definitely male.
Which marketed Pulsar as a symbol of strength, power and aggression. He turned it into the ride of the Indian man who was tough, powerful and irresistible to women. The ads showed why Pulsar made every other bike look ordinary and why it was a monster that made you definitely male. And the result shocked the munjals of Hero Honda and Rahul Bajaj. Pulsar took off and became an instant rage in the country. Owning a Pulsar became a symbol of pride for men and anything else looked ordinary. And Rajiv Bajaj's moment of redemption finally arrived. Within 2 years of launching, Pulsar grabbed a 93% share of the premium motorcycle segment in India. The Munjals couldn't believe the opportunity Hero Honda had just missed. But despite the success of Pulsar, Rajiv still had a mammoth task in front of him. Bajaj Auto's redemption. While the Pulsar did give Bajaj Auto a lifeline, it was still miles behind Hero Honda and their Splendor. He had now become a shark in his own new ocean. But he had to reclaim the old ocean as well to restore Bajaj's former glory. His old father, shocked and happy at how his son had defeated all odds to emerged victorious, finally decided to step down. Rajiv took over as the MD of Bajaj Auto in 2005 and that was when he decided to change the company forever. If Bajaj had to launch a worthy new competitor to the Splendor, it had to give it everything they had. So one of Rajiv's first moves was to kill the production of his old enemy. The production of the Bajaj Chetak finally came to a halt after over 30 years. His father was publicly against the move and it also meant laying off hundreds of employees. But Rajiv was prepared to make the sacrifices. Once he got complete control in his hands, he became unstoppable. Loaded with the success of Pulsar and the learnings of his failures, he went after Hero Honda's crown jewel once again. Instead of just targeting India, he made heavy investments in expanding his exports. And then came the moment of redemption. He launched the Bajaj Discover in 2004, which finally defeated the Splendor in 2012 to become the world's largest selling motorcycle. Pulsar remained Bajaj's Kohinoor with continuous improvements over the years and multiple new variants. While he also launched the likes of Avenger and Platina, all of which sold lakhs of units at their peak. Bajaj has sold 2 crore Pulsars till date in more than 50 countries. But the sweetest moment for Rajiv came years later, when his father Rahul finally admitted to some senior officials in closed room meetings. If it was not for his son and his fight against his own company, Bajaj Auto would have died several years ago. Because sometimes the only option to save a legacy is to kill it and evolve to something even better. Please hit subscribe if you made it this far, that helps me a lot. If you like this video, I recommend watching this one next. Until I see you in the next video, goodbye.